How do we make sense of this communist victory in historical and comparative terms? The Communist Party began as an orthodox Communist Party following the lead of Moscow and the Comintern. But it's important to ask, to what extent did Maoist revolutionary efforts really bear any resemblance to a Marxist-Leninist revolution? Clearly, this was not a proletarian effort. At this time, the party was essentially one of peasants and intellectuals. Its relationship to Marxist theory was entirely masked. There was no such thing as a Maoist theory, articulated by Mao Zedong himself, of a rural socialist revolution. The strategy was worked out in action rather than in words, its novelty underplayed. Indeed, the Chinese Communist Party was at pains to give unorthodox strategy the appearance of orthodoxy. In short, this is what Benjamin Schwartz, the late great historian and political scientist, has called heresy in act, not in theory. And probably Mao Zedong would have agreed with him. Mao was always scornful of intellectual work if it were not directly related to what he saw as reality. He had little time for doctrine if doctrine could not be a guide for action. Marxism-Leninism, he reminded the party's intellectuals, as he was purging them in 1942, quote, has no beauty, no mystical value. It is simply very useful. And he added, to those of you who regard Marxism-Leninism as a religious dogma, your doctrine is less useful than shit. We can see that dog shit can fertilize the fields and mans can feed the dog. But doctrine? That can't fertilize the fields, can't even feed a dog. Of what use are doctrines? As the historian Maurice Meisner has written, and this is a point that really needs emphasis, in certain fundamental senses, the question of whether or not Mao was a true Marxist really must be answered in the affirmative. For if the basic task of Marxism, Meisner has written, is to free individuals from certain types of oppression, alienation from what they produce, and to aim to create a communist society in which people are not bound by divisions of labor, but free to develop their capacities in all areas, this certainly was an aim of Mao Zedong, an aim in which he did not succeed. And he can be seen as an innovator in method rather than simply in aim. He surely can also be seen as a Leninist, because Leninist's major contribution was not himself to simply follow Marxist historical determinism, but to use parts of that doctrine to seize power. Leninism was a means of seizing and holding power. And Mao Zedong proved extraordinarily good in seizing and holding power. Finally, in this period of experimentation in China with Western ideologies, political models, often without understanding either the Western context or the Chinese applicability, Mao Zedong can be seen to have done credit to Marx's own definition as to what the task at hand was for revolutionaries in the modern world. In Marx's famous Theses on Feuerbach, written even before the Communist Manifesto, Marx wrote, "Philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it."